almost didn't post anything at all this week because of a few different things that happened. Some quite globally, others quite personally. But then I realized there was sort of a theme throughout, and as far as the feelings that I was experiencing and the reactions I was having. And I know that I'm not the only one that's having a difficult time right now. I know I'm not the only one feeling the feelings that I have right now. And I thought maybe I could just talk a little bit about how sometimes when we feel the least inclined to take care of ourselves, like when we start to shut down, when we start to feel paralyzed, when we start to go inward, if we feel anxious or scared or uncertain, insecure, sad, grief, these are often the times that we find it most difficult, or maybe it doesn't even occur to us to really truly take care of ourselves. And of course, naturally, those are the times that it's most important to do that. Physically, mentally, emotionally. And something that happens often, I think, is that when something really big happens that is hard for us to handle, when we are experiencing a shock or a trauma or grief of some kind, it is really common for that to get transferred onto other situations and scenarios and relationships and exchanges and experiences. So things feel very, very intense when maybe they wouldn't normally. And that feeling of panic or fear or sadness carries through to these other events or conversations. And we start to lose the ability to differentiate between what is and what if. When something very intense happens, I'm trying to be delicate. I'm trying to be delicate here, but when something that feels very traumatizing happens, there's often repercussions or consequences that follow. And when we know that in advance that these things are coming, or that things are coming, it's hard for us not to start imagining what those things might be. And what happens physically is that some of the same chemicals are being released, or hormones are being triggered, or fears and feelings, responses are happening as would if that actual fear were happening. So this lines up really well with just basic anxiety, for example. So when we feel those feelings of panic because we're anxious or we're stressed or we're feeling trapped, our body experiences and is signaling the same responses as if something really life-threatening was actually happening. And that happens even when we start thinking about what if, well, what if this horrible thing happens, and what if it's this awful outcome. We start to experience the same physical, emotional, and mental responses that we would if that actual thing were happening in that moment. Not only is that really unhealthy for us in the moment to have these releases and responses and chemical reactions going on as a result of this what-ifing, it also really wears us down and exhausts us and makes us less and less capable to cope when things actually do come up that need to be handled, that are difficult, the challenges and the obstacles. And in the times that we need to then act, it's even that much harder to do so. I know that a lot of people are struggling right now. A lot of people are feeling an incredible weight and perhaps feeling very scared, maybe feeling very alone, feeling immense grief. And I'm right there with you. I feel extremely affected by what's going on globally right now and politically And in my own personal life, as I said earlier, I'm facing some challenges that I'm finding extremely difficult. And so this reminder is not only to you, but to myself as well, that it is so important that despite all of this, and also, I guess, because of all of this, it is critical that we make sure that we are taking care of ourselves. And maybe part of that means to actually give yourself the time and the space to really feel your feelings, to feel sad or to feel scared or to feel grief. But also means to not let yourself get paralyzed by those feelings, because now is also the time to act. And now is also a really important time to take care of yourself, as I just said. Often to take care of your own self, you need to set very firm boundaries and limits and just focus inward and truly take care of your own self and take that time alone to feel your feelings. But not spending too much time in that, because that is often when we start to slide down that slippery slope of what ifing ourselves and catastrophizing and getting more and more afraid or sad or scared. So after spending a bit of time reflecting and truly feeling what you need to feel and experiencing those feelings, then I really strongly suggest that you pull yourself out of that bubble and reconnect and take care of the people around you. We take care of each other. We take care of other people or our pets or our plants. Those things usually make me feel a lot more grounded. And of course, because it's me, I'm going to tell you to be very mindful of what you put in your body right now, and make sure that the foods that you're eating are nurturing and nourishing and energizing as much as possible, and that they are foods that will help boost your immune system, because when we are feeling stressed and tired and sad and scared, our immune system takes a beating. Really, it truly does. So it's so important, so very important that you take good care of what you are eating. Of course, it's important to move your body. It doesn't have to be intense, crazy exercise, especially if you're having a hard enough time getting out of bed or off the couch in the first place. Just gentle yoga, Pilates, going for a walk, a bike ride, just something, that helps keep things circulating and moving inside your body. And stay really well hydrated and practice good sleep hygiene so that you can get as good of a sleep as possible. And so this is the message of the week. This is what I want to share with you. When we are feeling sad or stressed or anxious, we often reach for the things that are most comforting to us. And sometimes they are not the healthiest choices. So I am going to share a few of the things that I try to do when I feel like I need a bit of extra support, that are comforting but also helpful and healthful. There is a miso noodle soup for the soul that is also really great for your immune system. And I love making this when I'm not feeling great. I usually put mushrooms like shiitake and enoki mushrooms. I bought some shiitake mushrooms at the Korean Japanese grocery by my house, and I find there's two kinds of shiitake mushrooms that I see most often, and the more kind of robust, sturdy looking ones are often much stronger, so I will slice those much thinner if those are the ones that I have available to me. In this soup, I always add some green onions. You don't have to if you don't like onions, but I love them, so I always add green onions. some kind of greens like bok choy or napa cabbage or gailan, or all of the above if I have them on hand. Sometimes I will also julienne some carrots. I'll usually grate up some ginger also. I use a bouillon, like a vegetable broth paste, and I'm also going to use some miso paste, but I'll do them separately because I don't want the miso paste to boil. I don't want the miso broth to boil. I'll boil some water and I will make a vegetable broth and a miso broth. I'll add the vegetable broth to a saucepan. When the broth is getting nice and hot and close to bubbling, I'll add my greens and my green onions, the grated ginger. I add a piece of dried kombu seaweed, but I'll take that out at the end before serving it because it'll be tough and chewy and strong. Same as how you do with a bay leaf. You always take that out at the end before you serve. My carrots, some cubed firm tofu, and all of my mushrooms. And I'll let that simmer until the vegetables and mushrooms are nice and tender. While the soup is simmering, I will cook up some buckwheat noodles. Once the soup is ready, I will turn off the heat and I will add that miso broth that we made earlier. And to serve my soup, I will put my drained noodles into a bowl, top that with the soup, and it's so comforting and so good for you. Foods are not the only thing, of course, that brings us comfort, and I find that the things that comfort me most are the things that I associate with things that bring me joy or memories that were joyful. I have a small olive tree and bay leaf shrub that are potted, and I put them outside in the summertime because I have a dream of one day living at least part-time in the Mediterranean, and they remind me of that. They remind me of Italy, and they keep me close to my feelings of optimism and hope for the future. I have to bring them inside in the winter though, because they don't survive the very, very deep cold that we experience here in Montreal. So I bring them in and visit them in the greenhouse in the winter, which is not nearly as exciting, but still, it brings me joy. I usually put the hops root and amaryllis bulbs in little beds of moss and bring them in for the winter also, but I'm not doing that this year with the hops. I've noticed some neighbors have been able to leave theirs out, so I'm giving it a try. I hope and I pray that it works. And then he comes back to life in the spring. The amaryllis is definitely coming in, and this is the first year after many, many years that the amaryllis bulb had babies. I love bouquets of flowers and greenery in the house, and I was feeling sad that most of the flowers have now finished blooming outside. Not all of them, but most of them. And I thought about going to the grocery store and buying one of those big bunches of winter greenery, but they're really expensive. I know they're probably full of pesticides, and they probably won't live very long either. So I realized that I could probably just gather things that we already have from outside and make something that makes me feel the same way. So I went out front and I clipped a few tiny branches from the tree that is struggling in front of our house, right in front of the porch. We're not the ones who planted it there, and it doesn't seem to like it there, but we don't actually own our house, so we don't get to decide. And then I went in the back in the garden and I picked some herbs because there are many herbs that have a beautiful wintry vibe to them, like rosemary, eucalyptus, lavender. Lavender, even without the flowers, can look really wintry because the leaves are quite silvery. I also picked some sage, which has a really pretty color to it and a bit of a silver sheen to it also. And this bouquet smells amazing. It smells so beautiful. Speaking of smells that I associate with beautiful things, I also have a candle that I inherited from my daughter when she moved to Europe. And I love the smell of it, but I also just love lighting it because it reminds me of when she still lived close enough that I could go and visit her. I miss that so much. Sometimes associations are about touch, and even though the material isn't that cozy, I really love curling up in this blanket that my Nona made when she was still alive. I love the little patterns on it, and I used to love when she knitted them with those little balls and tassels along the edges because I don't know why, I just love to touch them with my fingers. So when I curl up in the blanket, that's what it reminds me of. Sometimes an association can just be from something visual that makes you feel comfy or have sweet memories. And sometimes a comforting, reassuring association can even come from sounds, like songs and pieces of music that you love. I hope that some of the ideas that I shared with you in this video inspire you and remind you of things that you love to do and things that make you feel safe and comfy and cozy and loved, and inspire you to love yourself a little bit more. I hope you're all doing okay. I send you love and courage and strength. I wish I could hug you all in real life. If you need some extra support and you would like to see me for naturopathy or nutrition, there is a booking link in the description below. I will be back next week. In the meantime, take really, really, really good care of yourselves and of each other.